Hey, how are you? My name is Joey Martins. I wanted to introduce myself and invite you and welcome you to our webinar of Revolution Financial Management and Transamerica Financial Advisors. I'm not sure how you got here, whether you were invited by one of our associates, maybe you were referred in by one of our community members, or maybe you were just a client who's seen the great work that we do for families. Again, we welcome you. You know, every so often a new idea comes to an old industry and absolutely revolutionizes it. Think about Amazon, right? Amazon absolutely exploded, yet they don't even own any of their own products. Think about Uber as a car service. Man, the taxis and liveries do not like them, yet Uber does not own any of their own cars. Airbnb is another great example. Airbnb revolutionized and changed the hotel and overnight stay industry, yet they don't own any of their own real estate or properties. I'm sure you see a trend happening here. Ladies and gentlemen, what we're doing here is we're revolutionizing one of the oldest, most stuck up, yet stodgiest and wealthiest industries without owning a single product, right? Over the last 3 years or so, we have literally tripled in size. And then in the year 2020, we have had the most explosive growth we've ever seen thus far. What our goal here is to change the way that financial literacy is given to families and the way that families are helped. And we've done a phenomenal job in doing that. And folks, we are just getting started. Today, we're going to talk about our two greatest passions in this session here. First things first, how we teach the fundamentals of money and finances to American families right now. And number two, how we teach our associates here how to build a strong and enduring business that could dramatically alter their quality of life for generations to come. And man, you picked a great time to check us out as we're in the middle of one of the most explosive phases of our business. And it's because of this gentleman that I'd love to introduce to you. It's directly because of him. He is a pinnacle in our industry. He is very quickly looked at. Out of our 50,000 associates countrywide, he is looked at in the top 5 company-wide as a leader in our business, an entrepreneur, and a very successful person in the financial field, and probably one of the best at helping families understand what may seem complex and simplifying it. Not only that, he is a phenomenal father. He's got 2 beautiful children that are growing. He's a great husband to his wonderful wife, Brenda. And let me just tell you something. If it wasn't for him, the East Coast of our country would never have expanded. And it's because of him and his vision and everything that he's been able to see in our company. It's exactly why we've grown at the pace that we have. So ladies and gentlemen, it's just an honor and privilege. This guy's time is super scarce. He is super busy. And we're excited to have him tonight. Please help me welcome Mr. Brian Batter.
Joey, thank you for that introduction. And for those of you guys who are here to hear the story for the first time, we're going to have some fun. We're going to be fairly quick and be somewhat brief. Now, you would probably, as Joey mentioned, refer to us by whether it's a client or a community partner or even one of our associates. And most likely, you've already coordinated a time to follow up on this conversation here tonight. So we're going to be explaining some basics of who we are, what we do, what our vision is as a company. And frankly, the fact of the matter is that 14 years ago, when I was sitting on your side of this conversation, I was cynical, skeptical, doubtful that this was for real. I thought it was one of those things. So let's address that first. We are in the financial services industry. This is a licensed profession. This is not a join-up type of business. I wish it were. This is a very simple system that we've developed in order to solve major problems facing both the industry as well as for the consumer. It's very simple what we've done, but it's not easy because it does require us to change some of our thinking, both on our savings and spending habits, as well as our thought process and how we generate our income. So let's go ahead and get into the conversation here. Now, Revolution Financial Management is a division of Transamerica. That building you saw on the right-hand side of the screen a second ago, Transamerica was founded in 1906. We're not some small company and new working out of the trunk of our car. Transamerica itself is actually part of a much larger company named Aegon that's based out of the Netherlands. And at this point now, our division of Transamerica has 50,000 licensed associates all throughout North America after having been founded in 1991 by 8 individuals. Why is it that we've been able to grow so much over the past 29 years? Well, it's because of our belief. Our belief is that the financial system and the educational system is set up in such a way that the average family fails financially. And so we're going to go over what it is that we do to help the consumer here first. That's our first great passion. But let's be frank, the financial services industry has had decades, generations to be able to solve the debt challenges, the retirement security, the life insurance concerns of the average American family. And they've done, well, a pretty poor job of it. So we believe that there needs to be a different approach to this industry. And as Joey mentioned, anytime you have a new approach to an old industry, it tends to generate a tremendous amount of wealth. Now, 40 years ago, there was a tremendous shift in the responsibility for our retirement future. It used to be you traded 20 or 30 years of your life in a career at an employer, and they would be responsible for your retirement income. It was called a pension. Well, today, the vast majority of employees aren't receiving a pension. Now, those people who work for the government, they may, but even then, the newer people that are getting hired at these jobs, the police, the firemen, the teachers, government employees, they're not getting the same benefit package that those people who got hired 30 and 40 years ago were getting. There's been a shift in responsibility from our employer into the lap of the employee, and at no point was the average American family educated on how any of these things work. And again, our belief is that the financial system and the educational system is set up in such a way that the average person, again, fails financially. Ask yourself, in school, what is it that children are taught? What are students walking out of high school understanding? How to save or how to borrow? That three-legged stool that you see there, your company pension, your own personal savings, the Social Security. Well, if we take away the pension leg, you only have two more legs to stand on. Personal savings, well, the challenge in this country is the vast majority of people, well, there's too much month at the end of the money. They're not saving much. And why? Because if you look at their personal income, what you see is half of their earnings go towards their living expenses. About a quarter of what they make gets eaten up by the IRS and taxes. And the remainder is paying off the debts, the student loans, the car payments, the credit cards, the mortgage, leaving very little to be saved. And so now more than ever, especially in these uncertain times, people have questions. The challenges in our industry, there is a crisis. The crisis is that of human resources. It's a crisis of headcount. The average age of a licensed financial services professional is 60 years old. There are more men over the age of 70 than there are under the age of 30. This industry has proven that it has an inability to attract, recruit, train, and retain good character people. That's specifically what our company has done. Our intention is to create more debt-free and financially independent families than, frankly, Apple did with their stock, than Amazon did with their stock. What we're going to be doing is teaching the fundamentals. Now, for our associates, and we'll talk about that here in the back half of our conversation, there's an uncommon opportunity to serve a need at a time when the demand is exploding, but the supply of licensed professionals is shrinking. If you understand anything about timing, if you have increasing demand and a shrinking supply, that means prices and incomes go up. That's what's happening within our industry. Now, any business that serve the needs of the baby boomer generation, the demographic you see right there on your screen, any business that's gotten in front of what this group needs or wants over the past 70 years has exploded, whether it was Gerber, Fisher-Price, McDonald's, heck, 1964 and a half, Ford sold the first Mustang. No coincidence. That was the first year the baby boomer hit 18 years old. Real estate exploded in the 70s and 80s as this group was having children, moving out of the cities. Well, now, this group is between 56 and 74 years old. Not only are they worried about themselves and their own retirement, they're caring for ailing parents who are in their 80s and 90s. They're looking at their children who in some cases are in their 40s, their 30s, or their late 20s and saying, I would want my children to have a better future than I did. But the challenge is the industry is shrinking. There's fewer licensed trained people to serve this demand. And unfortunately, the thinking that has been taught in our education system has forced people, unfortunately, to be ill-equipped to handle these important decisions. Frankly, the industry would rather people believe these things are super complex. Because if you think these things are very complex, what ends up happening is you can get easily manipulated and pushed into doing what's going to make the most revenue, what's most profitable for the industry, not necessarily what's going to be in the client's best interest. Now, what we've done, as Joey mentioned, was take the approach that Amazon has taken to retail. We are an independent platform. We don't represent one company. We represent the entire industry. We don't have an allegiance to product. We have an allegiance to concepts. Now, when we sit with the consumer, we work with them on a referral basis. There's no cold calling. There's no door knocking, right? There's none of that. That stuff doesn't work. There's no selling to friends and family. That stuff has proven itself to be ineffective. What we'll do is go over some basic concepts, and they will let us know what questions they may have, whether it be the concern of outliving the money they have saved, not becoming a financial burden on their children, whether their concern is they're paying too much in taxes, whether they're still wondering why it is that they're paying off these same student loans and credit cards 5 and 10 and 15, 20 years down the line. They're still carrying this debt. Well, we'll do an analysis for them, and we'll come back to them and show them a few different options. Say option A, option B. They'll see the good and bad of either. Option C might be what they're currently doing now. And frankly, if option C were better, what they're currently doing was better than what else was available, how much more peace of mind do you think that family has when they go to bed that night? That's how we're able to earn so many referrals. Our business has been built from West Coast to East, 50,000 licensed associates all throughout North America, purely on word of mouth. Now, we're getting paid by the companies that people choose to do business with. That was my question. I'm like, this sounds great and all, but how do you guys make money? Well, listen, if you take a look at these names on the screen and you say that you see the logo for Nationwide, you probably just hummed their jingle in your head. Well, why is that? Because Nationwide's spending millions of dollars a year in advertising dollars to get their brand name out there. But when you watch a football game on Sunday and you see Peyton Manning, you don't think about picking up the phone and calling Nationwide to buy something. From a marketing perspective, that's what's called a sunk cost. They don't get back an equal dollar on that investment. It's a very small return on that investment of advertising dollars. Well, what we represent is a fundamental shift in distribution. Why? Because Nationwide's only going to pay us after we bring them a client. But the client's only going to choose Nationwide after they had a chance to compare Nationwide to the other companies that are available. So very much like Amazon has created that sort and filter function, we've done the exact same thing in the financial services industry. I'll give you an actual example. A few weeks ago, I helped a woman who retired from a local hospital system here in New York. She had an old retirement account from the employer. She wasn't really sure what to do with it. She had some questions and some concerns. She was referred to me by a client of mine. We sat down, went over some different ideas. She liked one concept. We showed her a couple of different companies in that concept that do well with that one specifically. All of these companies pay us the same, so we don't have any allegiance to which company. They're all going to pay us equally. She ended up choosing one of the largest companies in the financial services arena. They pay us out of their own pockets because we just did the marketing for them. Really, what you could say is we're professional shoppers who just happen to do it in the single most lucrative industry that ever existed. And here's the challenge again in the industry, a human resource problem. Fewer people licensed now than ever before. You have more people over 70 than there are under 30. Good luck getting into this industry if you are not a white, college-educated man who knows people with money. I'm going to show you here in a minute the diversity within our field force as a company. It's the biggest strength that we have. But what are these concepts that we teach? Well, the first one's going to be what Albert Einstein called the eighth wonder of the world, the compounding effect of interest. He said, he who understands it earns it. He who does not pays it. Interest is your best employee. It doesn't sleep. So whether it works for you when you're saving or works against you when you're borrowing, the choice is up to us. And again, what are we being taught in school? What are our children being taught? To save or that it's okay to borrow? Well, the way interest actually works is defined by this simple formula called the rule of 72. What is it going to show you? It's going to show you how long it takes money to double. 72 divided by the rate equals the number of years. So in that little chart, you can see on the left-hand side, if I was 29 years old and I deposited $10,000 into a bank account that was going to earn me 1% interest, what that means is that money would double in 72 years. 72 divided by 1 equals 72. Now, what's the highest rate of interest you've ever heard of being charged on a credit card before? We've seen as high as 30. Let's just say it's 24 to keep the math simple. 72 divided by 24 is 3. That means that debt would be doubling every 3 years, which is why people, as they go about paying off their debt, they find themselves just kind of running up the down escalator. They never really seem to see the balances go down. Same thing with student loans. What we do is teach people how this actually works so that they can become more strategic with their payments, thereby shortening the amount of time it takes to get out of debt. Now, if you could shorten the amount of time it takes to get out of debt, you could increase the amount of time you can save money and start earning interest. See, time is a funny thing. People always think we're going to have more of it. What we understand is that if we save a little bit of money over a long enough period of time, that's at a decent rate of return, that's how we're going to accumulate wealth. So it starts with understanding how to make interest work for us as opposed to us working for interest. We lovingly like to call this concept, screw the lenders. They're not teaching this in school at all. I have a degree in economics from a state school here in New York. I literally taught that concept one day. One day. Now, the second concept we're going to teach is how not to get taken advantage of by Wall Street. When it comes to earning interest on your money, there's 3 basic ways you can do it. The first way is in what you call a fixed account. It's on the left side of your screen there. What you see there, it's an account where someone else is going to tell you how much they're going to pay you. The bank in your savings account, the insurance company in a whole life policy, someone else tells you how much they're going to pay you. The second way is on the right-hand side, which is that gray line. That gray line represents the stock market or a variable rate of return. See, in the stock market, you don't know how much it's going to make for you or take from you. The third way you can earn interest is through what's called indexed products. What do? An index product tracks the overall stock market, the overall economy. It allows you to grow your money when the markets are doing well. However, we're going to put a cap on these products. There's going to be a cap on how much you can earn. And you might be thinking, well, wait a second. Why would I want to limit how much I could earn? Because in exchange for having a cap on how much you could earn on the upside, you receive a guarantee against loss on the downside. One of the most fundamental lessons that we teach people is the best money you'll ever make is the money you don't lose. Wall Street's historical interest has not been protecting their clients' assets. It's been about getting more money under management so that they can charge more fees of questionable value. We help people understand what they've been getting charged and what those fees might or might not be giving them. So if the first concept is, let's understand how interest works, screw the lenders. The second concept is going to be, let's understand the fees that we're paying, how they affect our returns, and how to protect our money. Let's screw Wall Street. The third concept, this is the one that's near and dear to my heart, because when I was on your side of the conversation, again, 14 years ago now, cynical, skeptical, doubtful that this was for real, what I was hearing in the back of my mind was my mom. She was calling me concerned that her and my father might have, be in a position where they're going to run out of money in retirement. Now, my dad was a CPA for nearly 50 years here in Long Island in Rockville Center. And when he retired, this issue that you see on your screen bit him in the butt big time. To the point where my mom, 3 years after he sold his accounting practice and they moved to Florida, my mom was calling me, stressing that they might run out of money. And really what I heard her say, guys, I heard her say, Brian, we might be coming to move in with you. That made no sense to me whatsoever. See, the IRS says there's 2 ways you can make money. The first way is you go to work for money. Now, when you go to work for money, you pay what's called ordinary income taxes. Those are the highest tax rates that we pay. The second way to make money is when your money makes money. Now, when your money makes money, the IRS says you could pay taxes on those gains. You might call it interest or profit. When your money makes money, the IRS says you could pay taxes now. That's every year. Whenever you realize a gain, that means you bought something and you sold it for a profit. When you do that, you would pay taxes in that taxable account. The second way is in accounts where you don't pay taxes now, you pay taxes later in the future. Now, the challenge with that is you get a small tax incentive for doing those types of accounts. Your 401k, your 403b, your SEP IRA, your traditional IRA. The money you put in is not taxed. It's a seed that you plant. It doesn't get taxed today. But by deferring the taxes from today into the future, when it comes time for you to reap this harvest, you pay ordinary income taxes. There's no retirement tax bracket. It was income when it went in. It gets taxed as income on the way out. And you might be thinking, so what? I'll be in a lower tax bracket when I retire. Oh, really? Who controls the tax rates? You and I? Or the drunken idiots in Congress? Now let's think about this for a second. Let me maybe frame it to you in a little bit of a different question. Let's say you and I were going to go into business together. But when it came time to sell, I don't know whether I'd take 30% of the money or maybe more than 50% of the money. Say 60%. I don't know. We'll figure it out when we get there. Would you want me as your business partner? Of course not. Well, if you wouldn't want me as your business partner, why would you want the IRS? Tax now on the left-hand side, tax later in the middle column. On the right-hand side, you have tax never on our gains. How is that possible? Well, in a tax advantage or tax-free environment, the money you're investing has already been taxed. You pay on the seed so that you can keep the entirety of the harvest. That's the devil you know versus the devil you don't know. Tax deferred, you have no idea what tax rates are going to be. Tax advantage, you pay the taxes now, you know exactly what your tax rate's going to be. There's a few ways to go about it, even beyond the Roth IRA and Roth 401k. Concepts that I'd never heard of. My father was an accountant for 50 years. He hadn't heard of either. And when I heard about him, I thought, no, there's no way this is for real. Well, again, my cynicism, my skepticism, my doubts did not change the fact that this company was helping hundreds of thousands of clients per year learn how to get out of debt faster, protect their assets against market crashes, get some market correction protection, and how to do a lot of these things income tax free. So it's one thing to learn about it. Like, wow, those index accounts sounds great. Wonderful. How much of them are you doing? Man, tax free sounds wonderful. That's great. How much of that are you doing? So what we've done for the consumers is help them learn these basics. Again, we take what otherwise seems complex and make it simple to understand. And by doing it that way, we've allowed for our associates to create a business that can give them an unbelievable quality of life. When I was on your side of this conversation, again, my cynicism, my skepticism, all those things were popping up in my head. This is one of those things. I didn't go to school for this. I don't have any background in this. I don't know anything about this industry. But what I did know is in my heart of hearts, I was concerned about the quality of family life that my wife and I were going to have. She was running a restaurant, and my concern was being able to allow her to stay home with the kids the way her and I had always discussed. But we couldn't figure out a way to do it. And so when I was introduced to this conversation 14 years ago, the gentleman who spoke to me about it had literally 6 months prior replaced the six-figure salary from corporate America at General Electric. His name is Rusty Hood. In 18 months, he was earning here, taking home here, what he was earning at his job. And he was doing it part-time. He decided to go full-time. I was referred to him 6 months later, and he mentioned to me that he was able to have the quality of life at home with his wife and son. That's what I heard. I was honest with myself. I had looked at other things. None of them made any sense because I didn't have the money to invest in them. It would have taken up all my time. I wasn't really sure. I looked at a franchise in a sandwich industry. You might have heard of Quiznos before. I didn't really know anything about it. All I knew is it was a business in a book, in a box, basically. But at the end of the day, people really need more sandwiches. And if it failed, think about all the money I would have put at risk. It was my entire livelihood. I decided against it. When I came here and I heard this conversation, I said, this sounds great and all, but how are you going to teach me? Well, that's what our company has done. We've systematized training and development of new licensed people in this industry. What you see across the bottom are 5 different individuals and families that come from all different walks of life. On the left-hand side, you see a woman named Penny Oy and her husband, Benjamin. Penny was a waitress in the mid-90s when she first got started with our company. Her business now generates revenue of $70 million per year. She's one of the highest paid, if not the highest paid female in the entire financial services industry. And oh, by the way, our broker-dealer, Transamerica Financial Advisors, is recognized as #1 for years in a row now, as measured by, #1 in the industry, entire industry, as measured by women who make money. Because we're willing to start people on a flex time basis where they can control their time. They can believe in what they do and they can be their own boss. Next to Penny, you see a gentleman who might be familiar to you. His name is Marshall Faulk. Yes, that Marshall Faulk, the NFL Hall of Fame running back. He's the senior marketing director here with our firm down in San Diego. Next to him is a gentleman named Raja and his wife, Jazz Dhaliwal. They're up in Edmonton, Canada. They're originally from India. He was a cab driver 12 years ago when he got started here. His business is at this point now producing about $75 million of revenue per year. No background in the industry. He was willing to be coachable through a proven system. The couple next to him, that's Jamie and her husband, Sean Villalobos. Sean was the gentleman who explained the story like I am to you. Sean worked in construction. Jamie used to manage a gym. No background. Their business now produces $20 million of revenue a year. They were coached by the gentleman on the far right. His name is Ed Milet. Ed got started in our industry when he was 21 years old. He was a minor league baseball player who was unfortunately not going to make it to the pros. He ended up working at a boys' home and felt that he was called to do something greater. Well, you might recognize him from Instagram because at this point now, Ed is the #1 most followed individual as measured in the entrepreneurship and self-help categories. This is the single most lucrative industry that anybody could work in. But again, good luck getting in if you're not a white, college-educated man who knows people with money, meaning you went to the right schools. We've knocked those doors down entirely. We don't care what a person's background is. We're going to give them a shot and see what they've got. Now, that doesn't mean we can approve everybody. This is not one of those join-up type of things. But let's talk compensation here. Again, we're paid by the companies that clients choose to use. So if we're going to talk about an indexed account that's going to allow a person to have tax-free access later on, let's just say for argument's sake, that individual is going to save $6 a day, $185 a month into that type of policy. Whichever company they choose to use, they compensate us. That would generate about a $2,200 gross commission paid to our company. As an associate, gone through the training program, been approved to work with us, passed an exam from the state, got a multiple choice exam, they got a C-. They went through our field training program. So they learned how to actually utilize that license. Helping one client a week save $6 a day each. And we'll put an extra $4,000 in that associate's pocket that month. Think about what that might do to a family's household welfare and well-being right now. Now, should someone decide they want to take on a little bit more responsibility, like the broker at your real estate office or the partner at the law firm, they take on a little bit more responsibility. They earn what's called a higher contract. We're no different. Senior marketing director would be what you call broker in real estate or partner at a law firm. Senior marketing director takes on a little bit more responsibility. They have a little bit of a higher contract, do the same exact work as the associate. They keep a little bit more of the revenue. They would earn about $7,100 for doing the same work. Now, when I came here, I was leaving the real estate industry. I was a mortgage broker in Pasadena, California. And I realized that the gentleman who owned the company I worked for, there was 3 partners, they had about 150 loan officers. They were earning a percentage of every single one of our sales. I had no opportunity to do the same thing. I realized that if I chose to here, I could build a team. Now, I wish this, again, was one of those join-up type of things, but would you consider your local real estate office or your local law office a pyramid scheme? This is not one of those get paid to recruit people type of businesses. I wish it were. It'd be a lot easier, but it's not. So now, as a senior marketing director who trains 5 associates, you see the difference between those two numbers, 4,000 and 7,100. It's a difference about $3,100. That's called the spread. That would be what the partner earns when the associate attorney does the work, what the broker owner earns when the real estate agent sells a house. It's what the senior marketing director earns when the associate goes out and actually helps the client. You have an army, trained army of 5 people, 5 associates, each helping 4 clients a month, a total of 20 new clients in your business every month. That would generate about $15,000 of income to you as a senior marketing director for having taken the time to teach and train and develop a licensed field force. That might be a poor example of leadership, however, because at some point, they're going to resent you if you're not going out there and helping people yourself, leading by example. Again, this is not one of those things where you recruit someone, they do the work and you get paid. Absolutely not. So as a senior marketing director who actually leads by example, add the income you would earn helping 4 clients a month to the income generated via overrides of your 5-person team, and you're earning roughly $22,000 a month. This is as real as it gets. What we've done is take the compensation of the financial services industry and flip it upside down. Whereas currently now in most of these other companies, the people making the biggest money, they're the CEO at the top. What are the chances that the gentleman who works at the local Bank of America branch or the local Chase Bank branch has the opportunity to actually become the CEO of the company? It's the CEOs who make the most money. Here, what we've done is we've flipped it upside down, poured it into the field. Why? Because the crisis facing this industry is a lack of distribution. We need to increase the size of a licensed, trained field force, but that requires core values that the industry refuses to acknowledge. The reason why this industry has such a bad reputation for so long is because of poor sales practices and horrible training methods. The number one thing we're concerned with, if we're going to prove a candidate on this platform, we're concerned with how you treat other people. That's why you were invited to hear this story. Someone thought highly enough of you to at least share this opportunity to hear the story. I don't know whether you're going to be a fit for us. We'll need to sit down and check you out and answer your questions and have you answer some of ours. We're concerned with how you treat other people because it's not something that can really be taught. It's kind of like basketball. You can't teach tall. You could have all these great systems in place, but if your values don't line up, what does that mean? Meaning, make decisions based on long-term thinking, not what's going to be most profitable in the short term. Our priorities are very simple. Your faith comes first, whatever that might be. Your family comes second, and then your business. Could you say the same about your job right now? Now, I know you might have the income you like. Do you have control of your time? Do you have to ask someone permission to be sick? Do you have to ask someone permission to care for someone else who's sick? See, what I learned early on in my career here is that you are not well off until you can take time off and still live well. There's a paradox to becoming successful in the corporate world. Frankly, even in the self-employed world. You can be a realtor. Wonderful. Even a lawyer for that matter. Great. A CPA. Awesome. The more successful you become, the lower your quality of life. Why? Well, if you're not working, there's no more income. If you stop taking on clients, your business revenue shrinks. If you become successful in the corporate world, the more you move up that corporate ladder, the higher your income, the lower your quality of life. Because you're leaving the house earlier. You're coming home later. So, I'll ask you again. You might have the income you like in your career, but do you have the control of your time? Can you really be with the people you care about when they need you most? We want to make sure your faith comes first, your family comes second, and then your business. This company has taken us around the world. We do a tremendous amount of recognition because we believe that when a person feels good, they'll do good. Now, this might sound too good to be true. That's what I thought too. Our business is very simple. We have systematized training and development. There's an opportunity for someone to take advantage of this moment, the timing where the demand is exploding, but the supply is shrinking. That represents incredible opportunity. Right place, right time. The only question is, are you the right person? We're looking for people who are looking for us. And frankly, we're looking for people who are honest with themselves, meaning they know what they want. I wanted to retire my wife from the restaurant. Number two, they're willing to ask themselves, is what I'm doing now going to allow me to get what it is that I want, that life of fulfillment? It doesn't have to be a thing, a house or a car. Those are fleeting. Number one, what do they want? Number two, is what they're doing now going to get them what they want? And the most important question of all is, if you know what you want and you can reconcile the fact that what you're doing now doesn't have the horsepower to get you there, well, what's more important to you? Going after that life of fulfillment? Having a sense of self-satisfaction when you look in the mirror, knowing that you've done your best to become the best that you're capable of becoming? Or settling for something else? Now, if you have questions about your financial situation, you say, you know what, Brian, this sounds great. I do like my career. Maybe I'm interested in generating some additional income, potentially on a referral basis. But I'd actually like you guys to take a look at what I'm doing. Again, we'll ask you this silly question. If you could find something better than what you're doing now, and you're the judge of that, wouldn't you want to know? And at the same time, should someone take a look? As a fiduciary, I am a registered investment advisor representative. I can explain to someone, here's the good and bad of what you've got. Here's what they're charging you. Here's what your alternatives are. Here's what they would charge you. Here's the compensation that would be generated. And if you find that what you're doing currently is better than what else is out there on the open market on an independent basis, you take a look at it. You see that it's better than what else is out there. How much more confident will you feel going to bed that night? That's what we do for people. So with that being said, you probably can imagine there's a number of people that need to hear this. There's probably some questions that you might want answered yourself. And then if you're interested in seeing if this is a platform that you could be approved to work in and generate additional income or maybe replace the income from your current career, well, since you've had a chance to check us out, now we need a chance to check you out and see if there's some way we can possibly help you or see if we can get you approved on the platform. We appreciate you guys for coming to take a look at us today. We look forward to catching up with you in the future. And if I have a chance to meet you in person, I do look forward to it. Enjoy the rest of your day. Be well.